Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Michael Voss.
According to the great Lee Matthews, there has been no more valuable person in football than Michael Voss. This glowing endorsement echoes the sentiments of many who claim that Voss embodied the full package. The playing ability, the leadership, the professionalism, the team-first attitude, and the will to win at all costs. When searching for inspiration, his teammates needed to look no further than their number 3, who would always lead fearlessly from the front.
Still McDonald to Voss in the pocket. Voss close. He's done it. Has he? The captain.
He won almost every individual accolade in the game, headlined by 5 Club Best and Fairest awards, and of course the 1996 Brownlow medal.
Look at this. Voss can run on and kick a goal or get it to power. He sidesteps. Should go to power. No, he decides to bang it himself.
However, it's his accomplishments as the entrusted leader of the most successful side in club history that he most cherishes. Voss skippered the Lions towards their famous three-peat of premierships and remains the longest-serving captain in combined club history, after fulfilling the role for a full decade. But even the raw statistics, impressive as they are, don't do justice to the Voss phenomenon.
Thank you. Yesterday I got the chance to talk to a group of, I guess, your team leaders and had a really good chat, good hour out with those guys and talked about this transition between player and coach. What I can confirm beforehand though, Scott, you talked about the grading of high school and about being a Sydney Swans player. It's not that high as an AFL player. It's pretty low, all right? So you don't have to shoot that high, so you should be right there. And we'll touch on a little bit of that at the moment because we are pretty simple creatures when it comes down to it. There's some things you should know about me though, because when you look at sort of vision like that, and you see about what it takes, they're all the things that you see on the weekend. You see that stuff on the Saturday and the genuine outcome. That's probably the result. When we see the weekend, all the hard work that goes in between is about that moment. So when you're standing on Grand Final day, it's about, I guess for us, about asking a different question. Is that if I'm standing on Grand Final day, most players or some players will come in and say, oh, they want to play an AFL team or they want to be able to play on the big stage or whatever it is. But the starting question for me was if I'm on Grand Final day, am I doing everything that's preparing me for that moment? If I'm not playing at that level, then I'm not playing hard enough. And that's the question that you have to ask yourself because in our way, it was about being the best. There's a journey that you go on as a player. And I've been obviously lucky enough to be involved at about 21 years through sport. There's been varying stages of my career. Very early on, certainly when I started playing, I had the competitiveness, but I had this, want to be liked. And I probably played a little bit that way, I must admit. Played okay, did all that sort of stuff, but that real edge about you that you needed to be able to get yourself to the next level just wasn't quite there. In about 1996, or there just beforehand, I learned a valuable lesson around that, about being able to not necessarily be liked, be respected, but hated on the field. So one of the things that I adapted in my game was sledging. I could play the game. Because I thought, most players are playing, so we're playing the game. We're playing the game about being able to win an AFL Grand Final. That's what we're here to do. Okay? If you're playing any less, don't play it. Because ultimately that's what it's all about. MCG, 100,000 people in the moment, could be a close game. What do? Have you created the right behaviours for that moment? And that's what you're preparing yourself for. So for me, was a whole new level to ask that question. So people say about sledging, and I've been aligned to that. But I never really thought of it like that. I thought of it as being other people's subconscious. Reminding them of things perhaps that they thought people didn't see, but I did. And I made sure that everyone else also did. So the game was physically such a thing about there was not much difference between this player and that player. So where was going to be my edge? Because I wasn't the best runner, I wasn't the most powerful, I wasn't this, I wasn't that, I wasn't the best kick, I wasn't that, but I had an all-round thing about me that I committed to. That was my strength. So the all-round part was that I wasn't just going to play this game physically, I was going to play this game mentally as well. So let's play that game. So I played that game. I played with my teammates, talked to them in third party. That was the game. Now that was a huge transition for me because he's a guy that liked to be liked. So a guy that steps over the white line though, when you step over, you can't be that. And it's amazing out of that where I thought I was hated, where eventually you end up becoming respected. I like to be one step ahead. So whenever we're at this moment here, I like to be thinking one step ahead. That was just always how I was hardwired. So it wasn't about making the team, it was about getting a position in the team. It wasn't about positioning the team, it was about being a leader in the team. If it wasn't being a leader in a team, it was about being the most professional in the team. If it wasn't the most professional in the team, it was the most professional in the AFL. And then when it became the most professional in the AFL, it was about being the best. Not my best, the best. Okay, so that's the step every time, asking a different question. Okay, so that's the step ahead that we have to be able to have. So that was it. For us, it was about, as a leader, it was about being a coach and seeing Lee Matthews as the coach. For me, I'd like to be in control. Anyone go through that in the room, I wonder? Not sure? Like to be in control. So I'd like to be the guy that Lee Matthews said, Voss, you go get this done for us. I'll go do it, coach. I'll get it done for you. I'll do it. I like to be leaned on. So the big thing for me as being a coach was I wanted him to depend on me. When Lee Matthews spoke, I spoke after him. There was no cracks between Lee and the coach. And the captain. He was the coach off the field. I was the coach on the field. Okay? And that's the way the relationship worked. And we challenged each other accordingly. Now, to challenge Lee Matthews is one of the scariest moments that you'll ever experience in all of your life. Right? Because he has a spare, and then the way Lee is very hard to convince. When he set an idea to try and get him through a different path is really hard to do. There's a lot of warming up with Lee. All right? There's a lot of warming up, but eventually once it all clicks, it's amazing what he is. So it's not how you approach that, but I'll go into perhaps a little bit better. So you get down to here though, and as a coach, some of those attributes that you start to move to between what the player was, which made the player so, hopefully achieved and was able to get to the top of the tree, which I did a few times, lucky enough to do a few times, wasn't necessarily going to be the attributes that was going to make me a great coach. Now, this took me a little while to understand. In fact, it probably took me a couple of years to. So when we sort of start talking about things about wanting to achieve a lot. Now, when you get in as coach, you're sitting at there. That's when I was appointed. So that's not 209, it's actually 208. We had some success in 209 finishing the finals. When you're sitting as a coach, you go, I'm going to achieve this, I'm going to achieve this, I'm going to achieve this, achieve this. Now, the difference between that and now is that I don't try and achieve much at all. Be great at a few things, not all right at a lot of things. And so narrowing your focus is about that. Now, our pre-season this year, I actually thought we did that very, very well. It was just a few things where we just focused on, which was kicking. Pretty basic. Now, everyone will have their own plans. There's 200 people in the room here. I've got 48 players. Each of those players have their own individual things that they need to be able to work on. But as a team, we need to become better at kicking. So everyone in their own plans had to have kicking, because the sum of all parts was going to make us greater in that area. Okay, so that was what we were able to do, whereas sometimes, probably previously in 09, 010, you'd probably get you to be better at that, and you to be better at that, and you better at that, and you better at that, and we're sort of a little bit disjointed about what we actually wanted to achieve, and probably trying to achieve too much. So it was just keeping it really simple about things that we need to be able to achieve.